this computer. Hello and welcome back to the Not Your Neurotypical Fitness podcast. And I'm in with another amazing guest. And we've been having such amazing conversations already. So I am very excited to get stuck into this. But the amazing, how do I pronounce it? Is it with the accents? I know we've been kind of digging at each other a little bit. Aaron,
Yeah.
Aaron,
Aaron.
Aaron, yeah,
Aaron.
Aaron.
There you go. You did great.
Up here. Okay, amazing. Because the thing is, we've got the local dialect of like different ways you can say it, and then you've got accents. So, amazing Aron Croft here, who is going to be talking about all things to do with productivity and follow through and taking action. And the reason I wanted to have this conversation is his work is not really in the health and fitness space, but what he does and what he knows is going to be something that you can apply in whatever you're potentially stuck on in your journey right now. And I'm so excited to hear his nuggets, his knowledge for myself as well, and things that I can apply to my life. So before we really get stuck into the juicy value, are you okay just to give a little bit of a brief introduction to who you are, where you're from, because you're clearly not from here, and the work that you do to help people?
Sure. So hi everybody. I'm Aron Croft. And really how I got into this work was basically just failing. So I was one of those kids in high school that, was good at playing the game and I had a lot of support. And so I got good grades, but behind the scenes, I was an absolute shit show. Are we allowed to say that on these?
Yes, we are 100%.
Okay. Uh, and there was the part of me that was like kind of the would do well, and everyone said, "Oh, he's so smart and talented." And then, there was the part of me that knew what was actually going on behind the scenes, how I was just procrastinating on all my work and would do everything at the last minute and would study an hour before tests. And I'd pull off these results, but it was miserable inside. And I managed to get into Harvard with all this stuff going on. But getting into Harvard doesn't fix the underlying lack of ability to do things, follow through when I wanted to. So 15 years of failing, ended up 33, broke, divorced, earning minimum wage. And I was like, I don't know, like, do I have to go to like military boot camp or something? Like, I need to figure out how to close this gap between what I want to do and what I actually can get myself to do. And I set out to figure that out. And then I rebuilt my career, Fortune 500, biggest companies in the world, Marriott, McDonald's, Johnson and Johnson, and so on. And then I started sharing online after about 6 years, some of what it took to make it in the Fortune 500 world with ADHD, but I wasn't disclosing it because we don't get a lot of support if you do in the US. And so I just started sharing and some of my struggles and my journey, and it really resonated with people. And over 100,000 people started following me on TikTok and other places online. And and then I finally just said, well, that's a lot more enjoyable and fulfilling than just helping these billion-dollar companies do a little bit better. And so I quit my comfy corporate job 5 years ago and went into hidden ADHD.
Amazing. And for people who might not know what hidden ADHD, I don't know why that's so hard to say. What is hidden ADHD? What do you do? What is it? Is it group coaching? What is it? Just let people know.
Sure. Yeah. So it's obviously evolved over time. It started as one-on-one coaching, and then it went to groups. And now it's basically a whole system. So it's always centered around this. How do I get myself to do things that I want to do?
Mm-hmm.
Like just close that gap, right? That I had to figure out how to close. We call it getting in the driver's seat of your life versus just being in the passenger seat where you're just sort of reacting as things happen, but you actually can set it out, make things happen. So I started helping people that were like me, kind of smart, but underperforming mid-career, like consultants, lawyers, whatever, entrepreneurs. And then this weird thing happened. And so my market has actually shifted. Every time I would run those groups, with that audience, like a third of the people would show up and they were women who were in, their 60s and 70s. They weren't running a business. They weren't doing this. They just said, I just moved a few years ago and I still haven't finished unpacking the boxes and I'm drowning in clutter. Or, I was a super successful doctor and now I retired and I can't get out of, like, I'm in pajamas till 3 p.m. And I was like, what are you all doing here? And they're just like, Aaron, ADHD in girls wasn't a thing in our generation. Like, we're just finding out about it later in life. And like, we worked really hard. We raised families. We did all these things. And now we're at this point in our life that we thought was going to be freedom and enjoyment and all these amazing things. And instead, we're just paralyzed and like stuck at home and our lives are getting smaller. They're like, so we want help on this. And you seem to know some ways to help. And so I'm just like, okay, this is weird. But now all of a sudden, I just realized this is who I serve. And so that's really where my stuff has shifted. But sometimes people say, well, okay, but why them, or does it? And it's like, well, yeah, it works for women in their 60s and 70s and 80s. It also works for people in their 20s, right? It's agnostic to who it is. It's just that's who really was most hungry for the sort of change.
Mm-hmm. And that's quite interesting you say that, because I have quite a lot of people come to my programs who are quite a bit older than myself. And before I niched into ADHD.
So they're like at least over 16, is that?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. And it's before I niched into ADHD, I wasn't generally getting sort of older women. They would tend to go for coaches that maybe were closer in age because they can relate. But I'm actually getting more come to me now who are going through sort of the menopause, 50s and things like that. And I find that they are generally more wanting to make the change. It's for me, I assume it's because they've been stuck feeling this way for longer. So it's hurt more. It's a longer time of battle. And especially when you've like, why was I struggling or what was going on? And then you have that answer. It's like, now I really want to do something about it. So I've noticed that, not to the same extent, but I have noticed that pattern in sort of inquiries and people that come into my world, which is really interesting.
And honestly, Lucy, I wouldn't be surprised if you start to notice it more. And uh, here's why. Is one, if you look at the whole like fitness industry and healthy eating, right? I mean, it's a microcosm. It's littered with all the same neurotypical BS and just do it and just like do this super willpower, gritty, discipline thing and just like force yourself through it. And like that never works for brains like ours. And so that's number one. And number two is the reason that I think you're going to see it more. And the reason that I'm seeing it so much more is two main things happen for women in the back half of their life. The first is menopause. And so you end up with, and then post-menopause and perimenopause. So you end up with all these big hormonal changes, which absolutely affects their ADHD. And then the second is, if you think about life, the whole thing is fully mapped out, right? Like, okay, you go to school, and then maybe you go to university, and then you get a job, and then you get married, and then you have kids, and then you do that. Literally, but that's the end of the story. Like, and then you just sort of retire. Like the story ends there. And so the script of our lives all of a sudden disappears in our 50s and 60s. It's like, wait a minute. Okay, I did all those things. Now what? And so they have all these like social changes. They lose all their like, the colleagues and the support structures. And so yeah, so there's just like all these things that happen that then they're like, okay, I need some support.
Yeah, 100%. Just before we come into kind of like the work you do and looking at some ways that we can share some of these amazing
Sure.
with our audience. With yourself and ADHD, what is your story of diagnosis? Was it quite young? Was it in adulthood? What does it look like for you? Because everyone's journey is so different, right?
Yeah. Well, it's a little embarrassing and a little I don't know, a little vulnerable, but so I mentioned being broke, divorced, and earning minimum wage at 33. And so I didn't know I had ADHD at this point. And so I set out to try to figure out how to follow through. And, just the sheer pain of being divorced and out of money. I remember like it really hit me. So like that was motivating to like a visceral thing of just like, I need to make this work. So I like hustled and I did all these things, right? Because last minute panic, adrenaline, like we can do these things. And uh and I reinvented myself as a consultant. And I then I finally like did a bunch of like 1 and 2 month consulting gigs, and I worked my way up into like a big name consulting firm. And I was like, ha, I've made it. So I finally got this good job, 6 figures, go Aaron. And at a brand, one of the big four consulting firms, KPMG. And I was in the job. First month, amazing. Second month, amazing. Third month, my manager sits me down and says, Aaron, everyone loves you. You say all the right things, but your follow through, your work on those things isn't up to speed. So it's no big deal, totally fine. You just need to redo all the work you've done the past month up to the client standards. And you just need to stay late for like the next week and like work on the weekend and get it done. And like everything will be fine. I'm like, I was proud of myself for like making it through like 8 or 9 hour work days. Like I don't have anything else more in the tank. So I'm freaking out and I'm like, I'm about to lose this good job, and at this point, right, I'm divorced. I moved city. So I moved to Chicago and I'm living effectively with my mother, but it wasn't my mother. It was my mother's sister, which was like somehow socially a little more acceptable. Divorced man in his 30s living with his mother. And I'm like, I'm about to lose this job 3 months in. So I freak out. I call a friend and I'm like, dude, I know we've been out socially and you've like talked about your ADHD and how you have this like Adderall thing. And I've never tried Adderall before, but I need to stay late and work nights and weekends for the next week or I'm going to get fired. Like, help me out. He's like, no, I'm not allowed to, whatever. But I pushed and he finally acquiesced. Right. So don't try this at home, kids. And so I fly to the client site. This was in New Jersey, but I've got the Adderall. And so on Monday, about noon, I'm just sort of doing stuff in the thing. About noon, I'm like, okay, I should take it now because that'll help me stay like past, 5 or 6 o'clock. So I take the Adderall and then I'm just like walking around for a little while, don't know what to expect. I come back and I sit down at this conference table because consultants always have to just work in big conference tables with a bunch of other people and distractions. And I had to work on this really boring spreadsheet. And I was like working on it. And I'd look around and then I'd keep working on it. And I was like, wait a minute. Is this what people mean when they've always said to me, Aaron, just sit down and do it? Like, wait, can people do this normally? Like mind blown. I'd entered a different portal and I to this day, my mind is blown. And so after that, I was like, oh, maybe this wasn't just like a trick. Maybe I actually have this like ADHD thing, which made no sense to me because I was always like a chill kid, never a behavior problem. Like I'm much more like ADD, old school label, right? Like not with the hyperactivity. And so, yeah. So after that, then I went and saw a psychiatrist, got a diagnosis. He's like, how have you survived in your life until now? I'm like, it's a good question. And the rest is history.
Amazing. That's a really interesting story. I've not had that one before, but I love it. I really, really do. It's great. So obviously now, because of your journey, you were sharing it and people were sort of asking, and then you turned it into a business, which is what brilliant ADHD brains do. We have a problem and we talk about it and like, oh, we can actually help people on this. So with what you do, which is obviously helping people to take action on things, follow through on what they say they would. I can imagine it comes from with like a massive broad spectrum of things from, like you said, unpacking some boxes to taking action on projects that are going to save your job. And do you still find, I know you said your audience has shifted, but are the problems like still vary? Because I think when we think of like taking action and, needing to invest in a service, we think it is for the big things that, I need to save my job, I need to save my marriage. But actually the little things can actually eat away at you more, because something as silly as, why is it so hard for me to put the bins out? Why is it so hard? Like, I find that one so hard to empty a bin. Why is it so hard to undo this box? Why can I be excelling in my career and to put some laundry or clothes away doesn't happen? So do you find that this happens? You have this broad spectrum of like problems that people come to you with, and do you find that there is more of an impact potentially psychologically with the big things, the little things, or is it very varied?
I mean, yeah, it's both. I mean, I think ultimately it's less about the size of the thing itself.
Hmm.
It's much more about uh like the freedom of it. If you have choice, if you have agency, if you knew that you could make it so that you felt like putting out the bins, or so it would be easy to put in laundry, and that's a choice available to you, then you're fine, right? Because then you could just be like, well, I'm choosing to just whine about it, or I'm choosing to pay money to have somebody else take it off my plate so I don't have to deal with it. Or I still know how to make myself do things I don't like to do without it taking a bunch of emotional psychic energy. It's just, I know how to set up the systems and structures. I know the little tweaks, the way to like hack my brain that works for me, not for Lucy, not for Aaron, right? Like we have our own, like I call it a personalized productivity plan. Like, what are the things that reliably work for you? So I think it's really that. It's just like, I always have stuff that, I mean, look, we all have an infinite to-do list. If you're honest, right? Like, I mean, yeah, like I'd get my eyebrows like waxed if I had extra time, right? Like I would do all sorts of things. Like we all have so many things we'd love to do, right? I'd learn kite surfing. Like there's never a lack of things to do. It's just we just have to get good at being able to make the ones happen that we decide are important to us.
Sure. And this is where I really want to start to like pick your brains now on
Yeah, pick away.
suggest, because when it comes to sort of the taking action and productivity, it's something that with my own ADHD, I was obviously masking for a long time and didn't realize there were certain things that I could just hyper focus and do and get done and have it done yesterday. And there were certain things that I would always delay. And now that I really understand it, I've sort of come up with little strategies and systems myself. But I know that for a lot of people, if I actually think about the most common thing that people say to me on consultations or when I'm in group programs, it's the doing it. Like people will say like, oh, that sounds really good, but it's just doing the thing, or I don't trust myself to take action, or I start and then I stop. So what are maybe some of do you have any like go-to systems or strategies or things that you tell everyone, like ways that we can take action? And I know it's going to be so unique to scenarios and people, but just maybe some universal things that the listeners can take to go and apply to weight loss, fitness,
Yeah.
or even if it is just they've listened to this and go, oh my God, I can relate to the fact that I've moved house and nothing's unpacked. Because it does eat away at you, all
Yeah.
the little things. So I'd love to hear some ideas and strategies, and I'm sure the listeners would too.
Yeah, absolutely. Happy to share. So I think if we look at, so all my whole thing is that I'm terrible with having a lot of things to do. Like I don't really like working and doing things, but I do like getting results. And I do like having the results of getting things done. But I'm always looking for the shortcuts, the ways to minimize the amount of work. And um, it turns out that in a lot of cases, a lot of work is nice, but not that valuable. So, okay. So with that preamble, what's the really valuable stuff? Well, with our brains, right, as humans, anything that we can turn into a habit becomes essentially free. So if we can just like if you ever talk to anyone that's fit or in shape, it actually is hard for them not to work out
Mm-hmm.
because they've gone over what I call the habit hill, where it's actually hard to get back. It's hard. You have to go uphill to get to the other side, right? They go 2-3 days without working out and they're like jittery. And so, but until you've summited and got to the other side of that habit hill, anyone that's like, how do I get myself to even work out 3 days a week? It's like this, just how do I do it? Right. So the first is understanding that really what we want to do is we want to use this incredible capacity of habit building. And then it just becomes, how do we do that? Right. Because the habit requires us to show up regularly. So I think an analogy that might actually serve and really help is one of puppy training.
Mm-hmm.
So the technical term of this is behavioral approximation. But basically the idea is that, you don't get a puppy to perform an elaborate trick by it just performing the elaborate trick, right? So it's a puppy. It doesn't know how to roll over and do this stuff. You don't just say, oh, you need to roll over, right? The equivalent to fitness might be, okay, you're a couch potato and you need to work out 4 days a week. That would be like, you need to pull off this rollover trick on the first try. That doesn't happen. How do you train a puppy? Well, when it sort of lays down, you give it a treat. And then when it sits on its side, when it goes to its side, you give it another treat. And basically every stage of the steps to get there, you're positively reinforcing. And so understanding how to apply that. So the way that we apply that is, number one, don't try to do everything. Find the high leverage. What's something that if you did it, it would free up energy, time, focus. A good shortcut to find that is something that you're avoiding. It's usually a little tell that there's something valuable there. That if you did it, it's going to free up just this weight that's been on your shoulder. So that's one. So this concept of finding those types of tasks that are important and that you're avoiding. Then two, building a habit of showing up every day and doing some amount of time on those. We call them tough tasks. Mm-hmm. And so that's very much the behavioral approximation puppy dog training. So we just start with a 5-minute minimum. And you just like, oh, 5 minutes, that's easy, right? And it is easy, but you just start showing up 5 minutes a day. And then that expands to 10, 15, 20. And all of a sudden it's just people are doing an hour or two of things they would have avoided. And all of a sudden then they have all this energy and they're feeling good. And so there's more to it. And how do you actually get yourself to start on those days? But let me pause there because that was a fair bit.
No, that was amazing. So it is just like that, chunking it down and breaking it. How can I make it easier? Get something from that. So when you obviously, I know we aren't dogs, but when you were sort of saying about the reward system, do you get people to do that as well, of actually, if you've just done the 5 minutes, whether it's a physical reward or actually just crediting yourself, do you make that a thing for people that they need to do that? Because I think people, especially neurodivergent brains, who want to have everything done yesterday, a lot of the battles I run into with people is when I say things like that, like, don't worry about going out for a half an hour run, just go out the door and just tomorrow, your first time, maybe just put your trainers on, walk to the street, you're back. Then maybe you could jog it. And someone like, no, that's pointless. And like, there's that battle of like, but it's pointless to do that. I want to do everything. It's like, that you wouldn't be doing it. So how do you kind of overcome that and get people actually realizing that just do that small thing and then build on it from there and make them realize that that's the helpful way to do it?
Yeah. Okay. So 2 questions there. One was kind of like, how do you get them to in the reward? And then the second is like, how do you deal with that mindset of, I'm not going to fix my life doing a walk to the corner and back or just putting my trainers on, right? So as you can imagine, right, since I work with ADHDers, I hear that a lot, right? And it's very common. And so it's very normal to think that because it's true. You're not going to get in shape just putting on your trainers or just walking a block, right? And so you're not gonna fix the back taxes you haven't paid on 5 minutes a day, or you're not gonna get that book written that you've been avoiding for 5 years. And so it's true. But the thing that I help people understand is back to this choice thing, which is The issue is where all these problems that we have are that we don't have the choice of when to do it, right? So you've wanted to get in shape for how long, right? Years, decades, right? And it still hasn't happened, right? And so, and the way you've been approaching it has been this: I get super motivated, I hyper focus on it, I go to the gym every day and I eat only vegetables for 2 weeks, and then I crash out and I do nothing for weeks, months, years, right? And so it's that boom and bust cycle that you have enough experience trying it. Like, if you want to go through it more, you can. But at a certain point, when you're just like, wow, every time I say I need 5 hours to clean the garage, it's been 2 years and I still haven't dealt with it. Okay, maybe I'm willing to try something different. Mm-hmm. So that's number one. Number two is really back to what I shared about everything I think about is about just getting it to the point that it becomes a habit. Because even if you put the habit aside, like someone who's been in good shape and then they reduce their workouts to once or twice a week, they can get back up to their previous level of fitness so much faster than someone doing it for the first time. Mm-hmm. And they have the muscle memory, they have the whole thing, right? The neural connections. So even if you just get over a habit hill and just you build it, it's almost like habit capital that you can go back to when you cycle that habit back onto your like priorities. So because it's really that, it's like, look, you're not solving your life on 10 minutes a day. What you're doing is you're building the habit of being able to every single day on command, because you decided, not because a deadline decided, not because a boss made you, not because you got yelled at by your significant other, not because you had to pay a big fine, but because you decided you're now doing that 30 minutes, 45 minutes, and every day you're moving things forward that past you would have avoided, past you would have been afraid of, past you would have been stopped at. That's the habit you're building. And when you have that habit, if you were working 45 minutes a day on your fitness or your eating, like, you can see where, like, the reason that you're at the place you're at today is not because of the things you did or didn't do today. It's because of things you didn't do the past year. Mm. And so, but if you build that habit, you're going to be a completely different person in 3 months, 6 months, etc.
I love that. I love that. That's really brilliant. And then the reward side of it, do you do that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, sorry, I can let you finish the question. I was just agreeing that I didn't address that.
No, I was just going to say that. So, like, because some of my clients almost feel at first, like, so when, like, I ask my clients, like, things that they've done that are really good and wins, sometimes they'll say things like, I don't have any. And I'm like, well, yeah, you do. Because old you on a week like this, where everything's gone chaotic, wouldn't have done anything. And you still made the effort to go out for a walk because that's the thing we've been working on. Like, yeah, but I didn't do this, I didn't do that, and it's not perfect. I'm like, yeah, but you've done that thing, and that's amazing. So it's something that I have to really work on, is getting people to acknowledge that wins and success isn't the full transformation of ticking every box perfectly. It's doing something. And how do you sort of help people acknowledge, like, yeah, like I said, if we use that running analogy, someone's gone out, put the trainers on, gone for a walk, and they're like, oh, it's not that impressive when my friend on TikTok's just ran a half marathon, right? How do you get people acknowledging that's actually really good for me, so then they keep backing themselves to do it and do it and do it and do it?
So a few ways, and this will also tie into the rewards. So I think firstly, right, if we look at a little bit of the shift, it's less about, it's not so much that you're helping them, which you might be, right? In their head, they might be thinking, you're helping me get, shed 20 pounds or a stone or whatever you say over there, in time for this wedding or this event. But really, if they don't just want to be in this same position every year and always looking at their body in the mirror, beating themselves up, this whole thing, and just going through the shame cycle and why can't I, and the whole thing, really what you're coaching them on, Lucy, is on becoming that kind of person, the kind of person that does that. And so guess what? People who work out put on workout clothes most days of the week, right? So we are doing the behavioral approximation, the puppy dog training, getting you to be the kind of person that puts on their workout clothes and either gets outside, goes to the gym, does whatever they do. Like, if we want to get you to that kind of person 5 days a week, 4 days a week, whatever it is, like, we got to start getting your clothes on and getting you to step outside your front door, because that's on the path to approximating you doing it, where now you're actually going out and you're doing a half-hour run. But we got to work our way up there. So that is the acknowledgement piece. Is, yes, great. We're just using the wedding, or we're just using the running training as the playground to turn you into the kind of person that doesn't have this problem for the rest of their life, because you're just someone who has these habits, has these behaviors at your disposal. I still haven't done the rewards question, though. So
You haven't. Do you have an answer?
I do.
Would you like to share?
Okay. So, all right. This is, again, if we think about it, like, let's just say, for sake of simplicity, right, that if we could just do something consistently for 4 weeks, we're going to at least have summited some habit hill. Even if it's not the full habit hill on the journey, right? It's at least a plateau that we're like, okay, cool. I've at least built some habit, some automaticity, some, right? So let's just say 4 weeks. Now, that's kind of how I think about it in my head. So really, the whole thing we need to do is simply get somebody to be able to show up consistently for those 4 weeks when they don't feel like it. Because, right? And so my whole thing with the ADHD brain, including mine, which is just so uncooperative, so stubborn, so, like, I know some people call ADHD a gift. Like, if it's a gift, I want to know where to regift it. Like, I will gladly give up my ADHD tomorrow. So our brains don't cooperate. And so my view is just throw the kitchen sink at it. Like just stack the odds, make it almost impossible, make it so unlikely. So what does that look like? So here are a few of my favorites. So you can do rewards, and I'm all for that, right? I remember when I was originally learning this skill, I actually was kind of thinking through these things with a therapist of mine, and I set up that I was going to do this 45 minutes of tough tasks every morning before my corporate job, because I wanted to, like, leave, but I also knew I couldn't just, like, quit and be like, boop, right? I failed at enough things before, so I knew that wouldn't work. And so I was going to do 45 minutes of this tough task time before I started my day job. And then, so we were working on a reward. And I was like, how do I positively reinforce this, right? How do I apply the puppy dog training? And she's like, well, what would be a really good reward? I'm like, I mean, if you were really going to reward yourself, what would you do? I'm like, oh, I'd probably have some ice cream. And then she's like, okay, great. And I said, no, I can't like have to have ice cream like every time I do work for the rest of my life. Like, I'm going to be 1,000 pounds. Like, that doesn't work. And what she said still stuck to me to this day. She said, no, you're not doing it for the rest of your life. You're just doing it to get, like, for the next 30 days until you have the habit established. And so I'm a fan of rewards. For ADHDers, I actually recommend what we call a rewards menu. So ice cream, 20 minutes of my phone game, blah, blah, whatever it is, so that you have some choice, because we like choice when you get to have the reward. But recognizing it's really only just for the first 4 weeks. We're just getting the wheels turning. Then, secondly, this is actually one of my absolute favorites, like game changer for me, is we have a saying, ADHD success is a team sport. Anytime you want to get your brain to feel motivated, if you involve another person in some way, it's guaranteed to increase the motivation. Right? So I have to go out and do a walk tomorrow morning. okay, maybe I can try to like beat myself and come on, Aaron, you can do it. Like, you want this. This is important. Think of all the reasons why you're going to be healthy. Like, I'm still not going to freaking go. Right. But crap, I got to go meet Lucy for a walk. Oh, I have to go meet Lucy. Guess what? I'm going to go. Right. So, like, having other people involved is honestly one of my go tos. And
Mhm.
I'm saying this as an introvert. I know that, like,
Yeah.
kind of my interview personality doesn't fully scream introvert, but I'm a genuine like homebody introvert. So like this is super powerful, and it's honestly one of the primary things that we leverage. So yeah, just being able to involve other people, commit to other people, have meetings with other people, do body doubling, do work with other people, and then be able to, this also comes back to the reward, be able to share those wins with those same people, right? So I recommend other ADHDers that like either trying to get fit, lose weight, or in our case that are, recognizing these things, and they want to celebrate that they returned a library book that's 3 months overdue, right? Go and tell that to a neurotypical friend, and they'll be like, why didn't you do it 3 months ago? What's wrong with you? But
Yeah.
like, you can't scold the puppy for not rolling over all the way. Like, that's progress for an ADHDer, but you need people around you, a community around you that you can share that win, and that they're actually going to celebrate you because they understand it as a win.
I love that. That's brilliant. And it's kind of maybe actually I had a few sort of reflection points there. I was like, yeah, things where I've really gone from inconsistent to consistent. There's been that. There's been other people there. Like what helped me get really consistent with fitness was meeting people at classes, getting a personal trainer, all these. But yeah, it's brilliant. So other people involved is something that can really help you to take action. And if we've got, which we do a quick time, I'd quickly like to pick your brains on that because what you've done is really, really valuable of showing people how we can chunk it down and this. But a lot of people they say the hardest thing is that they get that, but even just the, putting my trainers on and walking out the door, it's that task initiation. So we've chunked it down, we've got other people involved. Is there anything else that is a helpful strategy to help people to just get started? Because again, for neurotypical, just do it, just get started. It's like, yeah, but for us, sometimes
Yeah,
that can feel like the hardest thing in the world to get the wheels in motion.
totally. And I think you saying wheels in motion is the right visual metaphor, right? Because if you picture a car stuck in the mud, right, the hardest thing is to get it started moving. Once it's moving, it has, but to overcome that static friction, like once it's rolling, you can keep it moving, but getting it out of that first push is where the most energy is required. And so there are a few different things, right? So um, one is actually having it down to a single thing,
Mhm.
because so there's a book that I read that I enjoyed. Gary Keller is a founder of Keller Williams Realty, a big real estate company, and he wrote a book called The One Thing. And
Yes.
in it, he shares, I was the CEO, and I would meet with my executives and every quarter, and I would basically coach them, and they would come up with three priorities, three things they were going to make happen that quarter, and then I would meet with them next quarter. And he said, and they would say, Gary, great news. I got 2 out of 3 done. And then he said, invariably, I started noticing the one thing that wasn't getting done was always the most important, the most valuable. And so I started only allowing them to commit to that one thing so that they couldn't confuse themselves with, I did this. And so we apply that same thing, and I highly recommend it. So there's literally only a single commitment. And we ADHDers, like, we like to win. We like to play games. We like to win if we know the rules and we know that we can do it. So if it's just a single commitment, right? So if it's just, I spend 15 minutes decluttering, uh, great. Like, and then if I do that, I've won. I don't even have to have made significant progress. It's just showing up and sitting through the discomfort of working on it. which is why we do minutes of time rather than I'm going to have a draft written, right? The draft might take you 30 minutes or 3 hours. You don't know. Like everything takes me 10 times as long as normal people. So, but time is 100% of your control. If you just sit down and work on it for a certain amount of time and you get to get a gold star and check it off, that's like, so one is having that. Two, I am a fan of like sticker charts, right? Like if you have a single thing you need to do and you get a sticker each day, right? It's just a visual reward. Another thing is, so another way to get that starting. This is actually another one of the things. So this is, we have a framework called the 2-hour workday, which again, back to my like laziness and desire to figure out like how I can still get really big results, but not have to work as much. So the idea is simply like, if you just focus on 2 hours of important work a day, you can kind of just coast the rest of your day, which is actually true. But it might be for some people it's an hour, other people it's 4 hours, but the concept really helps. And you basically, you let yourself off the hook the rest of the day. Like you're only stringent for that, like that amount of time that you've set aside. Okay. But one of the core principles of that is if we're going to do that, we want to make it easy to do those hard tasks in that window. And so the concept of chronobiology, so like Daniel Pink's New York Times bestselling book, When, he talks about this, and that's where I learned it, right? That we have a peak, a trough, a recovery. Not all hours of the day are equal. So, you know, colloquially, this would be someone knows they're a morning person, someone knows they're a night owl. But, you know, if your audience, you know, they picture when do I think I have good energy or the most energy if I really wanted to get something done, right? Most people have an intuitive sense from their experience, and that's usually a good enough starting point. And the nice thing is, like, if you take your hardest work and you put it in that window, peak time, it's so much easier. And so we just, again, back to throwing the kitchen sink at it. So our tough task time is a single commitment of a minimum floor that's low enough that they could hit it, even if a bunch of things go wrong, right? So they might target an hour, but they're going to commit to 15 minutes because we want them to experience winning day after day. And then they're going to plan that hour during peak time, right? That 15-minute commitment, but whatever, in their peak time. So if they're a morning person, they're not going to plan it for 4 p.m., right? They're going to schedule it accordingly. They're going to commit to someone, either their coach or their accountability buddy. They might show up for a study hall so that they can do the work around other people doing the work. So like basically online body doubling, where everyone's on mute with their camera on, getting work done privately, but you get to sort of say what you're going to do, and then you get to celebrate at the end what you got done. And so it's a little bit more reinforcing. You're not doing it alone. And then, yeah, they'll throw everything else from sticker charts to rewards to, you know, texting their coach afterwards to celebrate, to posting in the community, whatever it is. And so, yeah, so we just throw the kitchen sink. But once you get started, once you put 1 day, 2 day, 3 day, 4 day after each other, then the next few days, the next week becomes easier and easier. So yeah.
It's been so good. I've just had so many light bulb moments then of like, I didn't realize that was what I was doing to get things done. Like, I'm a morning person, so that's why I generally work out then. Because I find going for a run in the morning easy. Anytime after about 10, I find it really hard. If I want to like do some housework, I do it in the morning because by this time of day, I'm like, I really don't. Oh, I said to you at the start, you said, what do I want to get out of this? And I said, I want to have some light bulbs and value. And we have certainly got that. And I feel like I could just sit here and pick your brains all day, but we both have things to do and places to be. So what I am going to say, because I'm sure the listeners feel the same, I'm sure they feel the same, is if they do feel like that, I'm sure you've got content and resources and things where people can come find you, learn more from you. So I'll put this into the description of the podcast, but just for yourself, where can people find you? Where are you active, etc.?
Yeah, I mean, so as I mentioned, I've got a lot of content on YouTube, like over 20,000 subscribers there. Honestly, I think so. if you want a more in-depth kind of 1 hour coverage of all this, I do have a free training that I'll deliver, once or twice a month. And so you can do that. I've got a really good guide on my website that people love. It's basically the 10 productivity mistakes that all ADHDers make. Super actionable, really helpful. People love it. So I'd recommend that as a starting point. And then if you like that, you'll be on our email list. We'll share with you. So what we do is we actually have these really affordable 5-day experiential things where we actually get you over that hump on something you've been avoiding. So we get you that first 5 days of daily progress, which is the hardest thing. And it's like really affordable. People love them. We teach a lot of the content that is normally gated behind our, expensive high touch programs. So we just give it away freely. So it's really, we just want people to get this and we want them to experience it. So it's not just another thing they know, but they aren't doing.
Amazing. So yeah, I'll find all those. I'll find them all.
Yeah, I broke my rule of just giving one thing, right? So that's overwhelming. Where do I start?
I'll find them if I can.
So
I'll ask you forms so people can link those because that would be really valuable. But just to wrap up, I want to say a big thank you for your time because that was brilliant for me. So I know it will have been absolutely brilliant for the listeners as well. For all my regular listeners, I will see you on the next episode. And Aaron, I just want to say a big thank you. It's been an absolute pleasure. And thank you so much for joining me today.
It's been a blast and I love the work you're doing and I love your authenticity. So thank you, Lucy.
Amazing. To everyone else, I'll see you on the next one.